Good afternoon. My name is Jason Stocky. I'm an IT major here at St. Francis College. And today we're here to talk about your newest book, The Silver Lining of Project Uncertainties. And today we are here with the authors, Dr. Thomas Lechler. He is a professor at Stevens Institute in the House School of Management. And he has been a keynote speaker at conferences and as well as published academic articles and books on the topic of project management, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And we also have Dr. Barbara Edington, who's a professor here at St. Francis College, as well as the director of the Center of Excellence for Project Management.
Yes, thank you.
Now, before you began your academic career, you worked as a project manager in the financial industry for many years.
Yes.
So my first question is to Thomas, and it is, what motivated you to write this book?
Yeah, so in my long career in studying projects and project management, I kept hearing from the project managers again and again that they are struggling with situations of uncertainty and risk. And looking into specific success factors, I again and again saw that the limitations of those tools. And the question was, is uncertainty really different from risk? And do they also need different types of standards and tools? And I think that is the main issue that led to the book. And also I think it's a practical perspective. I think, Barbara, you might refer to this from your own experience. How uncertainties and risk play out in projects.
Yes, absolutely. You can't plan for everything. Uncertainty is looming everywhere, and I struggle to find the right tools to help my team be flexible enough to manage the project during times of uncertainty. For example, in the financial markets in particular, it's a dynamic environment. Things are changing every day. So when you're developing a new product or you're working on a project in the financial industry, you have to be prepared for something to happen that you never expected to. And I found that the standards that we work to in project management really didn't provide these tools or templates, the things that we needed as a team in order to make the most of an uncertain environment.
But don't the standards address risk?
Now, well, that's exactly right. They address risks, but they don't address uncertainty. And there is a big difference between risk and uncertainty from the managerial perspective. Risks, actually, to manage risks, you need to have a baseline. You plan for the events, and then you also prepare for specific events that could impact the results of your project. But uncertainty is different because the events are not known, or the probability of those events is just not known. There are many examples. I could give you one. For example, in the West Coast, people are waiting for the big earthquake, but nobody knows when it will happen. So that is uncertainty.
So you're telling me that the project management standards do not provide tools to manage uncertainty?
That's exactly what we tried to study. The project management standards are a very good tool set to manage risks. But uncertainty cannot be managed within the same framework, with the same thinking. If a project hits an uncertain situation, you cannot actually compare the execution with the originally planned baseline. Things have to be significantly changed.
Yes, if I could just add in something here too. Project managers are intently focused on maintaining that baseline because it's one of the major components of measuring a project's success. Stakeholders like to see, has the project been completed on time, has it been on budget, and that's all guided by the original baseline. But in a dynamic marketplace, the baseline you planned for yesterday may not be as relevant today or 6 or 7 months into that project. So I think we need to add some additional components for looking at success and perhaps evaluating how much additional value we can obtain from a project, even if it doesn't meet the original baseline.
Well, that's exactly what we found in our study, that the management of opportunities actually play an important role to add value to the project. Maybe it's a good example from one team we learned about. They actually lost their main sponsor at the end of their project. And instead of abandoning the whole project, they were looking for new sponsors. And they actually, in the end, found several new sponsors. And by the way, also extended the scope of the project in such a way that the solution was much more general than originally planned.
So what does it take to identify these opportunities?
Well, that's a tricky question. But there are several preconditions that have to be fulfilled. First of all, as we were talking before, the situation of uncertainty has to be correctly identified. That is not as simple as it sounds. About 50% of the project managers we interviewed confused risk with uncertainty. And secondly, project managers need to act entrepreneurial, which is also not natural. For many project managers who come also through a career being on the engineering side, it is the framework, plan, and then do, check, act. And with uncertainty, it is important to look in these situations for opportunities that lie beyond the baseline. So basically, you have to think out of the box, or you need, as entrepreneurs do, seek for those opportunities. Isn't that exactly what you experience in your career?
Yes, absolutely. If you go back to my earlier example of the financial marketplace and the dynamics in it, if you're developing a product and there's a change in the marketplace that's going to make that product less attractive to the target audience, you have to use this uncertainty to create and draft something that might be fitting the customer's needs more for today.
What advice do you have for companies today regarding their project management methodologies?
Also a difficult question. We actually try to develop some tools, basic tools, in the book that first, situations of uncertainty can be identified. Second, we also offer a basic tool to think about potential opportunities that can enhance the value of projects. Because what we see is that value during the project implementation is created, and project managers are in the core of creating this value. Actually, more than 50%, I think it's around 60% of the project managers identified the opportunity on the project level, and not actually other involved stakeholders. And it shows clearly that they have to take their role as being a manager. That means also from an organization perspective that project managers should be seen as managers and not as task administrators.
And if I could just add one more thing there, I'd like to say we should not look at uncertainty as a big black cloud. The business environment today, being as dynamic as it is, doesn't allow us the luxury of conducting our business according to a plan from yesterday. It's the businesses that use uncertainty to their advantage. They will be the ones who are well ahead of their competition, who is still busy looking at the baseline of yesterday.
So I'd like to thank Dr. Edington and Dr. Lechler for spending the time with us today and for this very informative interview. And be sure to read their new book, The Silver Lining of Project Uncertainties. And thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.